Welcome into Chatterbox Bearcats special show for the Crosstown Shootout. I'm your host, Nick Niehaus. Hudson Klauke joining me tonight, and we have a very, very special guest. It is Paul Fritschner of the Rebound Rundown, a daily college basketball podcast covering all local Cincinnati hoops and a little bit of Kentucky too, a little bit of Indiana, everything in the tri-state area. Paul has you covered. It's a daily digest podcast, Paul. I really like it because, you know, some shows you get in, you get out, you give the facts, give everybody what they need to hear. And then, of course, you have guests, you have interviews on the big stuff like the Crosstown Shootout and much other, you know, very important topics here locally. So, Paul, first, thanks for joining us, man. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the Xavier Musketeers. Get your side of the coin for the shootout.
Absolutely, fellas. Always great to be on. Appreciate it. Appreciate the pub for the rundown. You know, it's a fun show. I love doing it. It's 10 minutes every morning for the morning commute. Feels like it's a good water cooler show, and I love it. So, yeah, let's talk hoops, fellas. Let's do it.
Yeah, doing great stuff. And now, of course, Paul has covered Xavier for years. So Paul's on to, like I said, give us a little rundown of the Muskies. Me and Lily had the midweek show last night. We went into extensive, notes when it comes to what this game means, kind of where we think we stand. But Paul's here to give us where he thinks Xavier's at. So obviously, Paul, let's just cut to it. The elephant in the room is that in the offseason and the early part of the season, nobody thought this Xavier team was any good. And they were proving that to be true against Lemoyne, against Marist, against Santa Clara. Now, people don't realize Santa Clara is good. Like, that's a good team. Good. But still, something happened around a couple weeks ago to where now the narrative has switched when it comes to Xavier. And people are starting to respect them. What switched? Like, I mean, it's a simple question, but, it's probably not as simple as, it can be. How is Xavier looking so, much better than they were?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I think one, the starting lineup changed. Allright took over as the point guard, and they moved Jovan Milicevic into the middle as the 5. They were trying out Anthony Robinson as the 5. He just wasn't playing strong enough with the ball. He wasn't grabbing rebounds. He wasn't holding on to rebounds. He wasn't scoring at an efficient enough rate. He wasn't defending very well. He's kind of getting bullied around the rim. And so what they decided to do was they went to a more potent offensive lineup, but defensively, it definitely gives something up defensively to have Jovan Milicevic at the 5. You're not going with the size or the strength that maybe he's not a short guy by any means. I mean, he's standing there probably like 6'10" is where he's listed, but even still, you don't have a guy like Pop Njai, who's a 7'2", post player in there, able to block shots, all of that, because even he was struggling. So what Xavier did was they went to the different starting lineup, and they were doing things that they didn't do in games 1, 2, and 3. And what I mean by that is a lot of the credit for all of this goes to the coaching staff being willing to make wholesale big changes mid-season or mid-game, even when you throw out as something as simple as a 2-3 defense, right? Which is feels very elementary to even sit here and say, but it worked. It worked really well. And I mean, you heard Terry Nelson on the broadcast the other night talking about how the 2-3's given Cincinnati some trouble. I mean, I watch. It's wild to sit here and say, right? But, I'm sure a lot of people watching or listening to this would know me from my Xavier coverage over the years. But, doing the rebound rundown, I watch every minute of Cincinnati. I watch every minute of Xavier. I try to play it as fair and balanced as I can because I know I have a lot of Cincinnati people listening to that show. And so from that perspective, when I look at it, what Xavier was able to do, and it's something that I really respect Richard Pitino for being able to do and for being willing to do, because you don't see a lot of coaches doing it, is they're malleable to the talent that they have, as opposed to playing within their own system and hoping that we're just going to keep trudging through and we're going to hope that the guys that we got adapt to what we want to do. He's sitting there thinking to himself, okay, wait, I know what I want to try and do, but maybe what I'm trying to do in my normal system isn't exactly what this skill set fits for this particular group of guys. And he was willing to change that. And now all of a sudden you're looking at a Xavier team that has one of the highest assist rates in the country and has one of the lowest turnover rates in the country. For as much as they're passing the ball and assisting, they're barely ever turning it over. And that's the biggest thing that I look for on Friday night, because I think Cincinnati presents something that they haven't seen yet. Georgia, maybe, but I think Cincinnati's a better version of Georgia. And that's where I think Cincinnati is going to have a pretty significant advantage on Friday night, that the length and the athleticism of this Bearcats team is something Xavier hasn't really seen yet. And I'm curious to see how Xavier responds to it.
You mentioned changing things mid-games, making wholesale changes, being malleable as a coach. Wes Miller has never heard those words in his life. I mean, that's really been the kryptonite. It's like we just ram our head into a brick wall, and it never works, and we go on to the next season. Oh, everything's going to be great in the portal. Either way, I want to talk Richard Pitino, though, because you mentioned he seems like he's coaching these guys up. Like, if you look at the talent, just the money on the roster, it seems like, it started off a little rocky. They're moving in the right direction. But I like Richard Pitino. Seems like a bro, on Twitter. He's calling people narcs. He's doing the grades. I've been spewing on this for a while now. Have you do the Richard Pitino show with him on YouTube?
Yeah.
Did you give him any shit for not putting out the grades after the Santa Clara game?
No, I did not. I honestly, I haven't. I still haven't talked to him about that, if I'm being honest. No, I have not talked to him about it. He runs his own Twitter. He's very clear about that. He loves running his own Twitter. Some coaches don't. He loves running it, but no, I never talked to him about what happened after Santa Clara.
Hudson, that's the hard-hitting question we've all been waiting for. Hudson came at Richard Pitino as soon as it was happening. He's like, show us the grades. Everybody, please reply to every tweet. Give a little respect to him. He didn't turn off the comments, right? So, he was kind of what Big Cat got involved.
Big Cat did get involved, and then he mentioned Big Cat in the follow-up tweet after whatever the next game was after Santa Clara, or maybe the one after, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, Paul, here's a question, and I don't even want to say it, because I don't want this to happen, obviously, but if Xavier wins, what went right for the Musketeers? Like, what do they have to do to just secure their home court on Friday night? Because I got to say, I said it on the midweek show for our show last night, or I guess it released Tuesday or Wednesday. But you look at the talent on each roster, and obviously I think Cincinnati has the better players, but they might be underdogs in this one. I think Xavier's going to be favored. What went right for them if they win?
It's crazy to sit here and think, going back to the preseason shows I did where I'm previewing Xavier and I'm previewing Cincinnati, and I'm talking about how good I think this Cincinnati team can be. And the fact that I think some fans that maybe aren't as in tune to the gambling scene might think that going into the season, Cincinnati might've been favored by, 12, 13. It was never going to be that high, but it certainly felt like they could win the game by that much. But even you think back a couple years ago where Cincinnati was clearly the better team going to Cintas, Xavier was able to win, but even that line was, I think, 3.5 or something like that, 3.5, 4. It's hard to go on the road and win in college basketball. I mean, you look at it right now, I got Louisville and Arkansas here. Louisville should be blowing Arkansas out, and Arkansas is winning by 7 here with 5 minutes left. So it's tough to win on the road in college basketball. And so if you look at what Xavier needs to do on Friday, I hate that it sounds so simple, but I really think it's going to come down to whichever team makes more threes. And the craziest part to tie it all back together to your original question is, if you had sat here with me before the season started and 3-point shooting was number 1 on either of our lists for Xavier or Cincinnati, I'd have called you crazy. But now all of a sudden the 3 is bailing out Cincinnati. I mean, you think about the Tarleton State game, right? It's a 2-point game at halftime. Cincinnati goes on to make 16 threes to finish the night. If you just make 10 threes, which is a pretty respectable number, right? I mean, Xavier's made 10 threes in a row right now, at least in a game, 5 straight games. 6 is their longest streak in program history. They can make 10 on Friday against Cincinnati. But if you just make 10 threes against Tarleton State, that game's going to overtime. But it's crazy to think about that the 3 bails you out. The 3 has certainly bailed out Xavier. I mean, Xavier made 16 threes against West Virginia. West Virginia only made 6 threes. You win by 10. If you take 3 threes away from Xavier and add 3 threes on, you have an 18-point swing there, which is not crazy. Knock it down to 13 and 9. Now all of a sudden it's a whole different game for West Virginia. And that's where I think on Friday night, both teams might be reliant on the three, and that's where you have to give the edge a little bit to Xavier being at home and just knowing their home floor that, you know, if it does come down to a 3-point shooting contest, I like where Xavier's spot is.
Yeah, that leads me right into my next question, was the 3-point shooting. So I was doing some math here, and I know Xavier's, I think, top 25 in 3-point percentage this season. UC is in the 300s, okay? And I was running the numbers. I go, would it make more sense? You got in the lab,
Hudson? You got in the lab?
If we shot more threes than Xavier, we average more 3-point attempts. Just crunch the numbers, 29 a game to Xavier's 28. And we have an abysmal average. So I guess my question is, first off, I think it's a terrible strategy for UC just to huck shots. We have the size to get it inside, but to make Xavier uncomfortable from the perimeter, I haven't watched any Xavier besides the Santa Clara game. Is it a lot of inside-out basketball? Or are they just doing a lot of movement on the perimeter? How are they getting, this many good looks from three? And how can we try to slow them down if you were on UC's side of things?
Well, I think from Cincinnati's perspective, again, I go back to what I said about the Georgia game where the length and athleticism is really going to give Xavier some trouble. But I think that's honestly, fellas, been what's the most impressive thing to me about Xavier and how this has come together is the fact that, Xavier's assist percentage is 5th nationally, I believe. They're 5th in the country in assist percentage. No, they're 3rd in assist percentage. And their turnover percentage is 19th. Which means they are top 10% in taking care of the ball, and they're a top 3 team in assist percentage. They assist on almost 70% of their shots. The ball is constantly moving, and it's moving to the right place, which tells me that if you're taking care of the ball and you're moving the ball to the right place, they may not play at the fastest pace. Their tempo is 74th, so it's not crazy high, but it's also a top 75 tempo. You're moving with some speed and purpose with the basketball. They're finding open shots. Now, the West Virginia game, if you looked at Ross Hodge, the West Virginia's head coach in that West Virginia game, there were a lot of shots that were pretty decently contested where Ross Hodge just kind of threw his hands up and said, and I know a lot of Cincinnati fans listen to this. They're probably going, oh, we've heard that story before in the Crosstown Shootout. Like, that sounds familiar. But to me, that's been what's really stood out about this turnaround for Xavier and why I have answered on some shows why I think it can be sustainable. I don't think Xavier's talent is the top end talent that it needs to really compete for like a top 3 spot in the Big East. I'm not saying that, but like the Big East is wide open right now. And if Xavier can continue to do these things, these little things, right, where you're moving the ball around, you're finding the open shooter, and then you have some pretty talented shooters. The other thing too, to kind of finish this point, Malik Messina-Moore, who is a career 40% 3-point shooter and who was brought to this team to be the guy that kind of steadies the ship from the perimeter, has been the worst 3-point shooter on the team. So if you want to look at guys like maybe a Trey Carroll, who's already a handful of threes away from his career high in threes on a season, I think he made 26 last year. He's already made 17 this year. Or you look at a guy like, I'm trying to think, maybe Jovan's a pretty good 3-point shooter too, but I just mean in general, like if you want to say that Xavier's 3-point percentage, which right now is 34th in the country, oh, Paul, that'll find water eventually. Yeah, maybe, but their best 3-point shooter is shooting terribly right now. Malik Messina-Moore is shooting 27% from 3, and he's a career 40+ guy. So that's where I would say for Xavier, what goes well, if they continue to move the ball well and don't panic with turnovers early, it could be a good night for them.
Yeah, hey, it's funny how that's terrible for 3-point shooting on Xavier when Cincinnati has 2 guys who see the floor that are over 30%. So, and you're talking about passing and talking about shooting threes. I tweeted on Monday night with our game against Tarleton State, like, this might be the worst passing team I've ever seen in a Bearcat uniform. So it's like, I feel like couldn't be any different teams that we're going to see Friday night, where it's like, I think since he's talented, I think the coaching has been rough. Obviously, you mentioned that off the start of this show that, Patino has made changes to make them gel, to make them, work. And you look at some of these guys, and I have a few Xavier friends, and it's like, I like some of the guys in this team, But on a tournament team, they're not your number one. They're not your number two options typically. Like, so I'm not just going to downplay their talent, but it feels like two completely opposite teams. Like, it truly does. No question there. I'm just getting my statement out. My question to you would be, I like to go through a little stock rising, stock falling. I think it's a ripoff of Lily's like soccer podcast that he listens to overseas, but we have our own with Cincinnati, and I'll get into it after yours. But I'm curious in terms of personnel, who you look at, who you're like, this guy has drastically improved in the last 2 weeks, or maybe this guy's taken a back seat.
Yeah, okay, so stock rising, let's play that game first. Jovan Milicevic has, because he's playing his role better. He's a phenomenal three-point shooter, but he's also been able to play in the interior better than what Xavier had originally. And so I think what he's been able to do in steadying the ship for Xavier offensively has been great. It's been exactly what they've needed. And I was really impressed with Jovan when I saw him in the preseason. I remember talking to one of the coaches after a preseason practice and just being shocked at how far along Jovan was. But then at the same time, thinking to myself, well, he was with Richard Pitino at New Mexico last year. And so for me, it's the two New Mexico guys. It's Jovan and it's Phillip, because I think Phillip, he was a starter at New Mexico last year. He started his career at Arizona. Then he went to New Mexico, was a starter on an NCAA tournament team that beat Marquette and probably should have beat Michigan State. And then Michigan State just played well at the end of that game and ended up eliminating New Mexico. But Phillip was trying too hard at the beginning of the year. I think Phillip recognized that he needed, as a senior, to take on more of a role to help this team and tried to do too much. And that wasn't his role last year at New Mexico. And I think the coaching staff talked to him and said, look, we need you to just play more within yourself. Well, what happens? Yeah, I know St. Francis is one of the worst teams in Division I basketball, but he had 15 rebounds, 10 points the other day, a couple rebounds short of the Cintas Center record. He's in the right place at the right time. He can create some havoc on the offensive glass. Jovan's able to hit the three. Those two guys, I would say, because they are filling their role exceptionally well, that's my stock rising. Stock falling, I think it's hard to say anybody other than Roddy Anderson, just because he redshirted last year. He came into the year as the starting point guard. And, he had 28 points the other night. So statistically, I think he can get there. But I think even Roddy would tell you that maybe he's been pressing too much. And I haven't really had a chance to talk to Roddy about it and kind of what his thoughts are or where he is right now. But Roddy's the type of guy, he's such a good dude that I think he will settle into that role as the season goes on, and to have somebody that plays with the pace that he does coming off the bench from, all right, having that starting spot. I think Roddy, though, still needs to find and establish what he needs to do to really help this team going forward this year.
God, you just list all those names. I had to do some prep before this to just figure out who's even on this damn roster. I missed the days where I was like, oh, I know the starting five anyway. And even for UC, though, like, you don't know any of these names, and we don't even have a new coach. So I missed the old Crosstown days.
There's one guy who has played in the shootout. It's Day Thomas.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. My question would be, with all these new guys, and I think our strength or our advantage for UC is the interior. We haven't seen really any interior play at all. My question is, just from a physicality standpoint, who on Xavier would be able to match up with Mustafa Cham? If we're getting what we thought we were going to get coming into the year, he's been less than impressive thus far, but I think he's our biggest mismatch. Who do you think will be, guarding him, or do you think we'll see some different lineups than we've seen in the past from Pitino?
I think, at the 5, Jovan Milicevic is going to be tasked with a lot of that. I think you might see some different things from Xavier going into this game that, they might try some different looks. They might try to mix some things up to combat some of that size mismatch. Xavier does have a 7-footer in Pop Njai, but I would not expect to see him play major minutes in this game. Anthony Robinson played well the other night on Friday against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I think he had 12 points, 8 rebounds, something like that. Again, it's really hard for me to read into like the bye game results, but at the same time, I don't think it's nothing that he wasn't playing well overall and then comes in 12 points, 8 boards, like looked better. Anthony Robinson to me is he's somebody that like you really wish you could get more out of because he's tall, he's built really well, but he doesn't play very physical. So if maybe he can figure it out on Friday, it'd be a great game for Xavier to have him figure it out. Probably be Jovan Milicevic or some sort of other combination in the middle there.
Yeah, if Xavier doesn't play a zone on Friday, I don't know what do they even have they played zone all year? They don't have to. You just have to throw it out Friday.
I mean they have played some zone. They mixed it up. They actually played. It was funny. They actually played a little 1-3-1 on Monday against St. Francis. Mixed it in for a little bit. Did not go well. I don't know if they're going to try it on Friday or not. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see some zone on Friday.
It would work. It would work.
It would work.
1-3-1, boxing 1, 2-3, 2-2-1. Any zone just breaks our brain. So I'd be shocked if they didn't come out in a zone. I really would. It'd be insane.
Yeah, I would absolutely be.
Who's the boxing 1 on? Day-Day?
Yeah,
it's got to be Day-Day.
Yeah. Maybe Baba.
He's a gamer.
I don't know. All right, Paul, I asked you the question off the jump. Xavier wins. What went right for them? If Cincinnati wins, what went right for them? What did they do to Xavier to get the win on the road at Cintas for the first time since 2001?
I mean, I really don't think it's that crazy to sit here and imagine Cincinnati winning this game because it's such a mismatch for Xavier. I mean, from a size and athleticism perspective, like you look at what Mustafa Cham and Baba Miller bring to the table and Sean Abayev, if he has, I mean, Sean Abayev in that Louisville game, right? I mean, he takes 5 of the team's first 10 shots and he's just kind of firing. Like, can he settle into the role? Can they make some threes? Like, it's not, I have a harder time sitting here, even though I would probably pick Xavier to win the game just because it's at home, like purely simply for the fact that it's at home. Like if this game was at Cincinnati, I'd pick Cincinnati to win. This game's at Xavier, I'd pick Xavier to win. Like that's how razor thin I think the margins are. But like I'm not going to be sitting here at 10 o'clock on Friday night, rolling over in my chair if Cincinnati wins this game by 12 because it's such a mismatch problem for Xavier. But the good thing for Xavier fans that might be listening to this it's that the coaching staff has been able to, hey, you never know. Like I know a lot of Cincinnati fans that going both ways. Everybody wants to know everything about everybody else. So I respect the game. But yeah, it's like I don't think it's that hard to imagine Cincinnati win, except you take away the fact that it's at Cintas, which it's obviously hard to do because it hasn't been done in a while. But like you just take the product on the court. It's really not that hard to picture Cincinnati winning this because they have advantages at a lot of the positions. Like if you're the best way to think about it, guys, is like if you put all 20 or 30 players out on a playground, how many Cincinnati guys would you pick before you got to a Xavier guy? Right.
Well, does that come with Wes Miller coaching the team? That's the question. I mean, that's a good question. That's never been the problem. The talent has never been the problem. You see it in Lily, if he's listening to this, which he will, obviously, but like, I'm going to bring up the guys who left and are playing well on other teams. And Lily's probably sitting there shaking his fist like, damn you, Niehaus. Don't bring up Arrington Page going off for Northwestern because it doesn't mean anything yet.
He
doesn't care.
Yeah.
But either way, they're playing well. Now, some of these guys are putting up stats that they put up at UC, right? They're just on different teams. So it hasn't been that crazy other than Arrington Page. But you're right. I mean, you go through some of the teams that Xavier's had and UC's had in the shootout in the past 5-6 years under Brandon, early on in West. And like you said, you use that analogy where you draft people. Starting 5 has probably been majority Xavier. And this year, I don't know how many I would, obviously I think you pick 2 Cincinnati Bearcats before you pick a Xavier Musketeer, I think. And then I don't know. I mean, after that, you got Sean Abayev. I mean, obviously I picked Baba and Cham just based off, what we could project them to be, not, what Cham's been so far, but same with Sean Abayev. And again, like these are talented guys. It just hasn't showed up because the coaching has not.
I don't even like, I don't even know if you have to do the analogy. You could just look at what they were paid in the open market in NIL money. Like, we're damn near doubling the NIL money. I don't think the talent's the issue. I know this is doom and gloom, and Paul, you're just going to have to hear this monologue. I still think they're going to win this game. After 2 duds in a row, I just think the talent were that much better. Now, winning at Cintas, first time since 2001, would be insane. I think you guys mentioned it yesterday. Would be the first back-to-back wins against Xavier since 96, which is even more insane. But I guess that's the question for you, Paul. Do you think it's a little more loose since you're kind of closer to the program at Xavier? Because I think the pressure, especially on Wes Miller, is so heightened right now. Like, I don't know how much this is going to change the tune, even if they do get a win. I certainly will buy him a little bit of grace. Like, do you think it's more of like, hey, we go out there, Richard Pitino and the boys, they're like, we're, talent-wise, we're not quite there. We win this game, huge win. If we lose by 5, it's not the end of the world. It's my first year.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was just, before I came on with you guys, I was doing another show, and I said the same thing about Cincinnati and the pressure on this game and Wes and everything. And I'll answer that before I get to your question about Richard or and Xavier, because it's I guess I'm kind of spinning this back to you guys. I don't want to say that this is like a lose-lose for Wes, because that's an ignorant way to phrase it. That's not true. That's not what I'm trying to say. But bear with me here. If Cincinnati wins this game, you still have to make the NCAA tournament for the true great. I mean, think about last year. You finally break the streak. You beat Xavier. You don't go to the NCAA tournament after you flame out in the Big 12, and people are still frustrated with Wes. You lose this game, Wes is not going to be fired on Saturday morning if you lose this game. I understand people are going to be very frustrated. He's not going to be fired mid-season. He's going to have the opportunity to coach his way out of this. But everybody's going to be, if anybody is still left, everybody's going to be out if you lose this game, right? So it's almost like this game, to me, this game does not mean as much. I hate saying this because it's not coming out the way that I'm like doing the puzzle piece in my brain, right? It makes sense in my head, but when I verbalize it, it doesn't make as much sense. But it's
I know what you're saying.
I get where you're going.
It's almost, to me, like it doesn't make as much. It's not as important as the public is putting, because as I said in my last show, the yellow brick road here for Cincinnati always ends at the NCAA tournament. And if you beat Xavier and you don't make the NCAA tournament, or even if you're a 10 seed and you lose to the 7 seed in the first round, it's probably still not enough. On the other hand, if you lose this, then you've lost everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like you have to make the NCAA tournament. And if you make the tournament, you make a Sweet 16 with all the talent on this Cincinnati roster, all's forgiven. He probably gets another year. So it's like, the way when's the last time we've had a coach on the hot seat at UC? Like, never. This is usually the biggest game ever. And to Paul's point, it's like it's not as impactful as other years, because it's like, well, we already know we're going to the tournament. Let's get some icing on the cake here and win the biggest game of the year. Right now, it's like, yeah, you got to win this, and then you got to make it to the tournament. You probably got to win a tournament game. So it's uphill battle for our boy. Yeah, and then from Xavier's side, like I think the stat is that the last 12 first-time coaches are 4-8 in the Crosstown Shootout. Like, first-year coaches just generally don't do very well in this game. But I think one of those 4 wins might have been Sean round 2. Like, even he wasn't coaching in his first shootout when he came back and won it a couple of years ago. Or 3 years ago, whenever that was. So, from Richard's perspective, like, yeah, this game is very important to Xavier, because who knows? This is probably not an NCAA tournament team for Xavier. It'd be very hard for this team to make the tournament. So if you're Xavier, like, yeah, this is kind of the game that you hang your hat on. And if you can get it, I think this is a huge game for both teams, truly, because if you're Xavier and you can win this game against a really athletic, tough, gritty defensive team from Cincinnati, and I know they're not gritty on the offensive end, but they are a really talented defensive team. And if you're Xavier and you can win this type of a game, that gives you so much confidence going into the Big East to like rattle off some wins that maybe going into the year people would have thought, no way could you win that game. And for Cincinnati, I mean, just to get to unburden yourself, but winning at Cintas for the first time in 25 years, I mean, it speaks for itself. So, yeah, I think the pressure is all on Cincinnati in this game. I guess the one little hometown note I should say, Isaiah Walker for Xavier. Isaiah Walker, his dad was Tyrese Walker, played at Xavier in the early 90s. Isaiah grew up going to this game. He talked in the pregame press conference today. Isaiah, he's like, I've been talking to the guys all week about what this means, why it's different, why it's important, what this game is going to mean to the city. So yeah, he hasn't played in it, but I mean, he was rattling off memories of being at the game and things like that. So he appreciates it. And I think at least having that, Roddy Anderson was at the game last year. He didn't play. He was redshirting, but he was there. So Xavier doesn't have guys that have played in it, but they at least have the feel, I think, in the locker room. But it's nothing like walking out of that tunnel and really experiencing what the game is like.
No, and even experiencing it as a fan. I mean, this is has all the makings of being a very interesting shootout. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, Cincinnati's definitely losing this game. And then by the time I'm going to bed, I've bought myself all the way back in that, hey, I think we're going to go into Cintas and we're going to, finally take back-to-back wins for the first time in my entire life, as I was born in 97, which is quite embarrassing. So it's definitely an interesting one. I don't know, Hudson. My question to you, Hudson, is just how are we feeling? Because I don't know if we're going to be behind the mic again before the shootout. I think we were talking about it, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Like, how are you feeling ahead of this one?
I'm really indifferent because I just got so pissed off after the last two quote-unquote bye games, one of which we lost on our home floor. And I guess that's part of it. Like, I don't know if I care that we're going to Cintas. We can't play well at home anyway. I know we never win at Cintas, but it's like, what's the home court advantage anymore? Like, bring us to Cintas. Maybe get out of this rut that we're in, play some high-level basketball because the fans aren't going to be going crazy. I mean, I know they would go crazy in a crosstown no matter what, but the home court energy hasn't been great. Maybe get out there, get rid of some of that bad juju, get a win against a huge rival. Like, I feel pretty good. I think to have 3 duds in a row, statistically, it just can't happen. It can't, right?
No, but Hudson, I'm with you. I mean, I was at Fifth Third on Monday night. It was me and dozens others who were just pissed off the entire game. So that was a tough one. Lily said the same thing. Lily said, I think it's just a big ball of negative energy at Fifth Third. So to get into Cintas might be a good thing for Cincinnati, I think. And,
Paul, will you be there?
I will be there. I will be there. I actually will be there. I will be there. Yeah. No, it's never mind. I was going to go on another tangent. No, I'll be there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The floor is yours.
No. It was not important. No. I'm good.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for us. Do you have anything else, Paul? Let's tell the people how they can consume all your content.
Yeah, no, the Rebound Rundown. Yeah, it's a daily show that I do. Covers Xavier, Cincinnati, NKU, Dayton, Kentucky, Louisville, Miami, all the local teams here around Cincinnati. Really, the emphasis is on Xavier, Cincinnati, Dayton, Miami, NKU, those teams. But I know a lot of UK and U of L fans are here in the city as well, so I cover them. But yeah, do that every day. Take a listen. It's on your morning drive. It's an audio only, but I do have a YouTube channel so that you can watch the interviews and stuff that I do. A lot more video content as the season goes on. But yeah, appreciate you guys for having me on.
Yeah, thanks to Paul. He's done about 30 shows today. It's like he wrote a novel and he's doing a press junket. I mean, it's everywhere you go, Paul's face is there. So thank you, Paul. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Martino's. Live show for the shootout Friday night starting at 7 p.m. We have a pregame show, and then we'll have a live watch party. We'll obviously be mingling with all the fans. And then, of course, as always, we will have a postgame show. But this is different because all 4 of us going to be live at Martino's on Vine. So please join us Friday night and hopefully cheer on the Bearcats to a victory. All right, thanks, everybody. See you later.